The shocking last message from a man sentenced to death by firing squad. Did a cold-blooded killer find redemption in his final moments, or was his plea for abolishing the death penalty a calculated move to manipulate public opinion? We delve into the controversial execution of Brad Sigmon, a man who brutally murdered two innocent people, and the message he left behind. Brad Sigmon, convicted of the brutal double homicide of William and Gladys Larke, faced his ultimate judgment on March 7, 2023. The execution took place at Broad River Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina, marking a grim milestone. This was the first firing squad execution in South Carolina's history, a method chosen by Sigmon himself. 3 volunteer prison employees carried out the sentence, ending Sigmon's life at 6:08 p.m. The choice of execution method and the execution itself ignited a firestorm of debate. Was it justice served, or a barbaric act that reflects poorly on the state? The events leading to Sigmon's execution are undeniably horrific. In April 2001, Sigmon was arrested for the double homicide that would define his life. His relationship with Rebecca Barber had ended, and she had moved in with her parents, William David Larke and Gladys Larke. On April 27, 2001, Sigmon broke into the Larke home, fueled by rage and resentment. He attacked William and Gladys Larke with a baseball bat, striking them 9 times in the head. The brutal assault left both victims dead, and Sigmon fled the scene. After an 11-day manhunt, Sigmon was captured in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. He was subsequently convicted of 2 counts of murder and 1 of robbery. He received a death sentence for the murders and an additional 30 years in prison for the robbery charge. The severity of the crime is undeniable, but does it justify the state taking a life? In his final statement, Sigmon made a public call to abolish capital punishment. He framed his message as a show of love, a sentiment that many find difficult to reconcile with the brutality of his crimes. He called on fellow Christians to end the death penalty, arguing that the jury used an eye for an eye as justification for his sentence. Was this a genuine conversion, or a last-ditch attempt to sway public opinion? Sigmon claimed he was too ignorant to understand the wrongfulness of his actions at the time of the murders. He stated that society now lives under the law of the New Testament, advocating for forgiveness and redemption. This raises a crucial question. Can a person who commits such heinous acts truly be redeemed, and does that redemption negate the need for justice? Sigmon chose the firing squad due to concerns about the effectiveness and potential suffering associated with lethal injection. His attorney argued about the agonizing death of Marion Bowman Jr. by lethal injection. The attorney argued that the state didn't provide enough information about the lethal injection protocol. State prosecutors countered that Sigmon waived his objections by choosing the firing squad. This decision highlights the complexities of capital punishment. Is any method truly humane, and does the condemned have the right to choose their method of execution? Sigmon's execution has reignited the debate over the firing squad and the broader issue of capital punishment. The circumstances leading to his choice of execution method are particularly controversial. The death penalty remains legal in 27 U.S. states, although some governors have suspended executions in their jurisdictions. Public opinion on the death penalty is divided. A recent Gallup poll showed that 53% of Americans support the death penalty. However, support varies significantly between generations. Less than half of millennials and Gen Z support the death penalty, indicating a potential shift in public sentiment. The next execution is scheduled for March 13th in Texas, where David Leonard Wood will be executed by lethal injection. This case underscores the ongoing debate about the morality, effectiveness, and fairness of capital punishment in the United States. Is it a deterrent to crime, or a cruel and unusual punishment? While the focus often shifts to the condemned and the morality of the death penalty, it's crucial to remember the victims. William and Gladys Larke were brutally murdered, leaving behind grieving family and friends. Their lives were cut short by Sigmon's violent actions, and their suffering should not be forgotten in the debate surrounding his execution. Do the victims' families find closure in the execution of the perpetrator, or does it simply reopen old wounds? The pursuit of justice must consider the needs and perspectives of the victims and their families. Their voices often get lost in the larger debate about capital punishment. One of the most compelling arguments against the death penalty is the risk of executing an innocent person. The justice system is not infallible, and wrongful convictions do occur. Once an execution is carried out, there is no possibility of correcting a mistake. The irreversible nature of the death penalty raises serious ethical concerns. Numerous cases have emerged where individuals sentenced to death were later exonerated. This highlights the potential for catastrophic errors in the justice system. Can society justify the risk of executing an innocent person, even if it is a rare occurrence? This is a question that must be carefully considered in the debate about capital punishment. The death penalty is significantly more expensive than life imprisonment without parole. The extensive legal processes involved in capital cases, including appeals and specialized attorneys, drive up the costs. These costs are borne by taxpayers, diverting resources that could be used for other public services. Studies have shown that the death penalty can cost millions of dollars more per case than life imprisonment. Is the pursuit of capital punishment worth the financial burden it places on society? This is a practical consideration that often gets overlooked in the emotional debate surrounding the death penalty. Proponents of the death penalty often argue that it serves as a deterrent to crime. However, there is little evidence to support this claim. Studies have consistently failed to demonstrate a significant deterrent effect from capital punishment. In fact, some studies suggest that states with the death penalty may have higher murder rates than those without it. The effectiveness of the death penalty as a deterrent remains a highly debated topic. The lack of conclusive evidence raises questions about its justification. At its core, the debate about capital punishment is a moral one. Does the state have the right to take a human life, even in cases of heinous crimes? Opponents of the death penalty argue that it is a violation of fundamental human rights. They believe that all human life is sacred and that the state should not be in the business of killing. Proponents of the death penalty argue that it is a just punishment for certain crimes. They believe that it provides closure for victims' families and sends a message that certain actions will not be tolerated. The morality of state-sanctioned killing is a complex and deeply personal issue. There is no easy answer, and individuals hold widely varying beliefs on the matter. Studies have shown that the death penalty is disproportionately applied to people of color and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. This raises concerns about systemic bias in the justice system. Individuals who cannot afford adequate legal representation are more likely to be sentenced to death. Racial bias can also play a role in charging decisions and jury verdicts. The potential for racial and socioeconomic bias in the application of the death penalty undermines its fairness and legitimacy. This is a serious issue that must be addressed to ensure equal justice under the law. The death penalty is becoming increasingly rare around the world. Many countries have abolished capital punishment, viewing it as a cruel and inhumane practice. The United States is one of the few developed countries that still uses the death penalty. This puts the U.S. at odds with international norms and standards. The global trend towards abolition reflects a growing recognition of the inherent flaws and injustices associated with capital punishment. The execution of Brad Sigmon and his final message have ignited a crucial debate about capital punishment. From the brutality of his crimes to the controversial choice of execution method, this case raises profound questions about justice, morality, and the role of the state. Now, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the death penalty? Do you believe it is a just punishment or a cruel and unusual one? Share your opinions in the comments below. Engage in respectful dialogue with others and let your voice be heard. Take action. Research the death penalty laws in your state. Contact your elected officials and express your views on capital punishment. Support organizations working to reform the criminal justice system. Together, we can create a more just and equitable society.